notes. Most everything's going to be digital today. But again, we can share the paper copies out when we're finished. So we have the Indian Education for All team here today to present to you, and we won't take any more time. I'll let Carrie and Julie introduce themselves and go ahead and get started.
Heskal Tempelsier, Julie Jeffers, Louis Quest, Chines Lemti, Chines un Ashinabe un Nakota. My name is Julie Jeffers. I am a member of the Red River Pembina Nation. I am a descendant of the Little Shell Chippewa tribe, and my language is actually Salish because that's the first native language I have learned to speak in a not the, as my mentor says, I'm still not the best at it, but I'm working on it. I've been with OPI for 2 years now. My degree is in tribal historic preservation, and I grew up in Billings, Montana, until about 4 years ago, moved to the Flathead Reservation, and I live up here in Ronan, just actually Pablo, but my address is Ronan. I'm just north of the college, and finished my degree out at Salish County College. And Carrie.
Carrie McNabb Nisigasun, George Gordon First Nation, Otsinia, Agua, Rocky Boy, Montana, where my children and my grandchildren are all enrolled members of the Chippewa Cree tribe. I've graduated from MSU Northern with a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and then I went to Bozeman and graduated with my educational leadership degree from that institute. I've joined Indian Ed for All after a whole lot of different positions in the education system, from kindergarten all the way up, our pre-K all the way up to post-secondary. So I have information, that I would like to share. And our other teammate, our other member, Mike Jetty, he's on travel today. He's presenting it within the school district, and I love working with my team there. I learn so much every day from the team. We do have our supervisor, Dr. Brooke. If you want to take a moment, Brooke, and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello. I'm Dr. Brooke Beaverhart Gondera, the Director of Indian Education for the Office of Public Instruction, where I oversee the Tribal Student Achievement and Relations Unit and the Indian Education for All Unit. I'm a citizen of the Sistat, Northern Cheyenne of southeastern Montana. Oshkis Eet, my name is Dogwoman, and I'm very happy to be here. Early childhood is a passion of mine, and seeing this crossover and crosswalk between IEFA and early childhood is very exciting to me.
Thank you, Dr. Brooke. So we can move on to the next session norms, please. Okay, the session norms. This session will be interactive. Be prepared to discuss and engage with your neighbors throughout the session. We've tried to change things throughout. It gets tiring listening, so we want to be as interactive as possible. This session will provide safe space for questions. We'll do our best to answer, and if we don't know the answer, we will find the answer for you. Be honest within the discussions, because that helps us grow as a unit. Take care of your personal needs as they arise. Remain respectful, kind, and professional. And we encourage you to keep your camera on throughout the session, unless we've instructed you to go check out a link or something. It just feels more personal when we can see faces on the screen. So thank you for that one. Next slide. The learning targets for this session. The participants will receive an overview of what we're about, what Indian Education for All is about. We will talk about the mission, the law, the essential understandings. We will show you the IEFA website. We'll show you some lesson plans, and we did our best to try and show you how to integrate within pre-K, our early learning, I should say, sorry. Teach you how to book vet, what it looks like to look for appropriate novels or poems or, you know, whatever it is you're using. And we have a culture and language website to show you. Oh, hey, Matt is on here too. We could possibly utilize Matt because he is part of our team. Thanks for showing up, Matt. Yay.
Introduce
So
yourself, Matt.
yes, let's give Mr. Matt Bell a second to introduce himself. Because we're a team
Ihane
at
washte
this point.
midagi api. My name's Matt Bell. I'm Nakota and Aani from Fort Belknap. My backgrounds are in English teaching, secondary, and Native American studies, so I have a passion for literature, literacy, and I spend my time focusing on language and culture integration. So I'm a resource here at OPI, happy to connect individually with classes and all sorts of things, and happy to add a few things at the end of the presentation here. I'll kick it back to Carrie.
Thank you, Matt. The IEFA mission. So the IEFA mission, Julie, is this still me or am I taking
Yep.
over?
No, you're good.
Okay, thank you. The IEFA mission is grounded in Montana's constitution and enacted the policy. Our mission is to honor and preserve the distinct and unique cultural heritage of American Indians. Every Montanan, whether Indian or non-Indian, Indigenous or non-Indigenous, will learn about the distinct and unique heritage of American Indians in a culturally responsive manner. The OPI Indian Education for All IEFA unit partners with districts, tribes, and key stakeholders to provide the expertise and resources needed to fulfill the IEFA requirement. We don't do it on our own. We ensure all schools have the knowledge, tools, and resources necessary to honor the IEFA requirement and integrate it into their teaching materials and methods. We support schools and staff with knowledge, skills, and content to ensure Indian education for all means cultural enrichment, academic engagement, and equitable pedagogy for students. That's our IEFA mission.
The Montana Constitution is, oh wow, Article 5 of the Montana Constitution is about Indian education. And our goal with Indian education is, of course, to teach it, but also for people outside of the education realm to also learn it. And so these are the two sections in our Montana Constitution. We are the only state that has a law in our Constitution. There are bills in other states, and then I want to say 12, maybe 13 at this point have actual bills for Indian education for all. And then there's a few other states, a total of 33 that actually teach Indian education for all, but we are the only one with a state constitution. So what we're going to have you do is read these. You know, it is the goal of the people to establish a system of education that will develop the full educational potential of each person. Equality of educational opportunity is guaranteed to each person of the state. The state recognizes the distinct and unique cultural heritage of American Indians, and it is committed in its educational goals to the preservation of their cultural integrity. And I want you to look at those two sections there, and I want you to think about you know, what words stand out to you, what words do you not understand, and we'll move to the next slide real quick. And from here, I'm going to have Jackie kind of explain this. So in the wow, I am lost today. In the chat, we're dropping the link to this, but if you have a phone and you can grab that QR code on your screen, you're going to put in words or phrases in that section that stood out to you.
So we'll give everybody a moment to get there, and then we can go back to the last slide so that you can view that text again. It should take you to join the presentation, and then you put in the code And then the screen will look kind of like that. You'll see a Microsoft or Google. Down farther, you can continue as guest. Just do that. And then it says sign in, but just give a name. It doesn't matter if it's your real name, just make it appropriate. Jessica, come off mute and go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Can we go back to those two standards so we can look at the words and phrases again?
Yes, and one moment so that.
Awesome.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yep. Tiffany, go ahead.
What do I put in again for the presentation?
KY0R.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. This tool is really cool because you can see the words come in as they're entered. The bigger the word, the more people chose that word. Oops, still coming in. Caitlin had a technology malfunction, but she wanted to add the education of all people.
Well, thanks to everyone that participated in that activity, and we can see that preservation was the common thread that everyone seemed to come up with. It was the largest word on this activity to pop up. So keep your phone handy. We will be using it later in our presentation. We ready to move on?
I think so. I love that the preservation came in as one of the top words there.
Thank you for that.
So this is our arm, and our arm is this is basically the Montana Code, and it's basically what Indian education is about. You know, it's constitutional mandate. It is Title 20, Chapter 5, Part 5, or sorry, Chapter 1, Part 5. And then down here is the picture of the state capitol. If nobody's been up there in the last few years, that is all of our tribal flags throughout the state. So all 8 tribal flags were honored and put up there at the state capitol. So if you have a chance to get up there, it is beautiful. And again, we're one of the only states that has all of our tribal flags flying at the state capitol. So next one. So this one I want you to think about when you think about culture, because that's what a lot of Indian Education for All is about. So if Carrie and I'm going to add Matt and Brooke, we're coming to your house tonight, and you were going to cook us dinner, what would you cook so that we can understand your heritage or your culture? And I want you to really think. I've had some really different ones in the last couple of months on what people would cook, and I want to be able to give you a few of those weird ones. So think real hard about that.
And you could put in the chat your response.
Marie Judish, is that Lefsa? I can't say that right. It's so
not
good,
sure if
though.
I typed it correctly, but that, yeah.
Scrapple. Kim, if you want to hit the next button real quick for me. My first one would be pasties. I was raised by a spitfire little Irish woman that made the best pasties. And I absolutely love them. My mom was also a baker. So I remember when I was 5, 6, 7, coming home from school, and my mom would have dozens of cinnamon rolls in September and October, laying out, rising in the sun because it was nice and warm. And she would make these and freeze them, and we would have homemade cinnamon rolls, and they were the best. But some of the answers I've gotten over the last few times, I got hot dogs this last summer, and I said, "Are you a baseball team? Are you a baseball family?" And they said, "Yes, they are." And I've gotten steak and potatoes, and I said, "Are you a ranching family?" So when we think about culture, we're not just thinking about race or ethnicity. I want you to think about what is in your family traditions. I have little traditions for Valentine's Day for my kids. As a single mom for 10 years, I made it special with my kids. I have the cinnamon rolls with my mom. So it's not always, that German or that Spanish, Hispanic, or even Native American. And if I have a lot of natives in a session, I tell them they can't put fry bread in the chat, or they can't tell me fry bread. They have to think of something else. Just because I want them to think outside the box. What makes you who you are, and what part of the culture are you? It's area, it's family, it's heritage, it's all of those things.
Anybody else hungry?
Sorry.
I'm hungry. Thanks. Corned beef is the best. That is. So when you're thinking about food with Indigenous people, there's because they feed within Indigenous families, Native American families, they feed a lot of people, right? So there's a lot of soups and breads involved in that. So soups are always, my kids love soup. They're great. Their late grandmother used to always cook soup and bannock, fresh bannock. So so our work for the IEFA department, and it's aligned under the 4 main themes of diversity, culture, history, and sovereignty. And these are what we call our essential understandings. This is what guides our work with our lesson plans and our units, and going out and implement, helping our teachers implement in their classrooms or in the districts. But our very first one is our tribal diversity piece. when you're thinking about tribal diversity amongst not only Montana Indians, Indigenous people in general, we have to understand that there's a great diversity among all Native Americans, Canadian, North America, like United States, wherever. There's such a diversity because we are Chippewa Cree and Rocky Boy, which comes from Canada and out east from the Great Lakes. We still have our own diverse ways of doing things within the Chippewa Cree tribe. So there's a great diversity among the 12 sovereign nations, the 12 tribes in Montana, in their languages, in their cultures, in their histories, and in their governments, with their tribal governments. Each tribe has distinct and unique cultural heritage that contributes to Montana. So when you're thinking about essential understandings, one, what does that look like for a 4-year-old? So I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and I'm thinking, thinking about this, what does it look like to implement tribal diversity with a 4-year-old? Well, you can talk about, differences in languages, how to say hello in all the different languages within all the tribes in Montana. What does that sound like? What does it look like? Understanding the concrete examples of not all are the same. Even though we are Indian, we are Indigenous, we're not all the same. Teaching that the differences between tribal names, teaching the differences with moccasins, with designs, with colors, like thinking about a 4-year-old. What does essential understanding look like with a 4-year-old? The power of language, how do you say thank you? At the same time, you're teaching empathy, gratitude. How can you do that with a 4-year-old? There's so many different aspects with essential understanding with teaching tribal diversity. Our essential understanding to individual diversity, which means there's a great diversity among the tribal nations, and it's there. There's a lot to teach within the individual Chippewas. So within the Chippewa Nation, and I'm going to keep referring back to Chippewa Cree because that's who I am. I'm a Soto Cree, which is Chippewa Cree. But within our own Chippewa ways, Soto Crees, we have our own diversity within the families that you come from. So how do you teach that to a 4-year-old? How do you teach it? You can show contemporary life. A photo shoot maybe. You can have different activities, hands-on, show photos of contemporary Indigenous people and the scientists, the mathematicians, the teachers, the different families. So showing diversity amongst Indigenous people. Then you have essential understanding 3, which is beliefs, spirituality, and oral history. Again, going back to how do you teach that to a 4-year-old? I was going back. We don't know. We're not saying we know everything, but we help you to understand the ideologies behind the traditional beliefs, the spirituality, and the oral history of each of the different tribal nations. Again, bridging that gap between tradition, the Western society, helping our children, our 4-year-olds, um, understand that within their own family they have their own beliefs, they have their own spirituality, they have their own oral history, that history is a living thing. How can we begin implementing that with 4-year-olds? So I keep going back to that, thinking about my grandbaby Lake and Arrow. How can I teach that, within our own family, that we have different beliefs, we have different spiritualities, we have the different histories, our own family histories, within each of the tribal nations. How can you teach essential understanding 4, reservations? Give them a map, give them a map, have them speak all the different names, have them, again, motion, doing. We got to move. We have to understand that. How can you make a huge map and have them stand on different reservations? How can you color code them, using the the brain waves of a 4-year-old? Talk about their parents. How can you help them understand that my parents were from Blackfeet, or this is what you call Browning, whatever. How I have a friend that is from Fort Belknap. So having them move to these different reservations, thinking about like a 4-year-old again. And then you have essential understanding 5, with federal Indian policy, which is kind of deep, you know, for a 4-year-old to, you know, how do you help them understand federal Indian policy? But throughout history, it's affected our people. You know, it has. Where have they been? Showing them old pictures from 100 years ago to now, showing that, comparing. Do we look like that today? No, but you know, this is evolved. We are evolving, but we are still here. Again, how can you teach that to a 4-year-old? And of course, you have Essential Understanding 7, tribal sovereignty. How can you teach tribal sovereignty? How can you teach the histories? How can you teach, you know, again, I'm going to keep on going back to the maps, because that shows the differences between the tribal nations within the state of Montana. Give them an analogy, you know, the concept, what within our school, within our classroom, we have these rules. If we were to go into the other classroom, they have their own special rules. When we are presenting essential understandings, we have to be at the level of a 4-year-old, but keeping understanding what these essential understandings are, and under diversity, culture, history, and sovereignty.
Carrie, I love that you said the maps there. So I think that's awesome. The next section is looking at our website, and our website is a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're new to it. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit of our website, and that has been dropped into the chat there, and then I will share my screen. So when you go into the website, just making sure it's coming up correctly first. Jackie, do you see my screen? Okay. So this is what our website looks like, the very first page, and that link is going to bring you here. And from here we have 4 different sections. We've got Indian Education for All, Indian Student Achievement, which is part of Matt's department. Tribal Relations and Resiliency, again, is part of Matt, and then Matt keeps a hold of our American Indian culture and language, which we're going to look at a little bit later this afternoon. Our biggest one is the Indian Education for All. In here, you're going to find great videos, great resources, music, lesson plans from not just the state of Montana, but from other regions around the world, or around the US, sorry. So the first one, when we go to general information, this is where we get some of our tribal resources. Montana's Indian Law website, and then we have timelines for each of our tribes. We also have a map on there, and then you can click on the map and print out maps. And then our tribal colleges. The other one I like to show people here is the state and national resources. There are other states that we link to that have great resources. If you can't find something, or if you have a great book, but it may be Navajo, there might be something in here that works with that. We also have the Native 360, which is a Smithsonian resource that Native American NAM, their Native American Museum, and they actually have 10 essential understandings. They have taken Montana's 7 essential understandings, moved them into 10. Washington has adopted those 10. And a lot of the other states, these other states that we have on here, are the ones we talked about earlier that either have their own Indian Education Department, their own bills, their own laws. I do like Wisconsin's. They've got a great website that's easy to walk through. Minnesota's got a great website. So don't hesitate to go outside of our resources. We also have our classroom resources right here in this yellow tab. And there we go. This is the one you're probably going to use the most. But we have at this level, you're looking more language arts. Sometimes there's math, or sometimes there's science. And right now, these lesson plans are what we have. When you click on a lesson plan, I'm going to click on Bow Wow Powwow because it's one of my favorite books. We name the book, the author for you, and it gives you just a lesson on how to bring this into the classroom. Your learning objectives, materials, an instructional plan. I'm trying to watch my time, so Kim, give me a thumbs up if I'm over or whatnot. And then we always have resources within our lesson plans too, extended learning activities, but don't hesitate to look at something, say in grade 3 and go, oh, I've read the book. That's right, The Giving Tree. And it's The Giving Tree, the Métis story, is a little short story, a Métis story. And this book is great. But some of the lesson may not always pertain to a 4 or 5-year-old classroom. That's okay. Still use part of it. Use what you need. And that's our biggest thing here is find what works best for you and your kids. You know your classroom. You know your students. Sometimes there's videos. Sometimes there's articles. It also gives teacher resources. So if you don't know anything about it, there's usually history there for your own. Even the book like Thunderous by Mandy Smoker Broadus. This book is it's a graphic novel. So it's a great one for art. It's a great one to bring into the kids. If they're not at the level of reading it or even maybe understanding it, it's still a great book to bring in for the artwork and the pictures. Just a beautiful book there. So there's a lot in that book section. Again, we have music, science, social studies. And then I want to encourage you to go look at our poster series. And we have these honor yourself posters. And I didn't really look to see who was in the group today, but we're going to go, let's see.
Julie, you have 1 minute.
All righty. We're going to go look at Jordan. Jordan Langford is a teacher over in Great Falls. She's also our Montana Advisory Council on American Indians, our Macy chairman or chairwoman. And this poster is Jordan showing herself. I might be a little bit big there, but let's bring the poster in here. These are great if you're wondering about your classroom, about what do I have in my classroom? Do I have any pictures of Native people doing something different? A lot of our kids, either they're in areas that they don't see Native people, or they don't see them outside the classroom or outside the home. And so these Making Montana Proud posters are something that we absolutely love. Casey Nicholson is a comedian that we absolutely love if you ever get a chance. He's actually doing something up here next month on the Flathead Reservation. But definitely find some, print some out, show your kids that it's still alive. A lot of our kids are still in that Indians lived in teepee stage, especially the younger they are, just because of cartoons and such. So I love to bring those Making Montana Proud posters in. And then under our featured curriculum tab, we also have some remote learning, some OPI remote learning, and then I love the art. So in our art sections, we have the art of storytelling, which brings us to the Montana Historical Society. And then we have tribal flags and all about me lesson plans. Let me find it. Social studies. I follow the rules. This is a great one for early learning. I know about many cultures. I know about other people. I know how families are different. A lot of these have books attached to them. So if you're wondering, like, is there a book? You go to the bottom of the lesson plan and it'll usually tell you if there's a book attached to it. And this one is Jingle Dancer, Shoda and the Star Quilt, Where Do You Get Your Moccasins, are great resources and books to do with this lesson plan. So again, because some of these lesson plans might be second grade or might be a little bit more to that, it's still okay to bring those lesson plans down. Work with what works best with your own students.
Yes, make age appropriate. So when you're talking about the Jingle Just Dance book, print out, go on to Chat GPT and literally create a coloring page. Read the book to the student, then do the coloring page with them. Make it age appropriate. These are just the ideas. You are the knowledgeable one in your grade level. You have the knowledge of what will work and how are you going to implement it with a 4-year-old, with a 5-year-old. So it's run with it. And then when you master it, please share with us. We love to get those ideas. We love to get how did you, how did it work?
Or what didn't work? Is there something in there that, if you ever find a link that doesn't work, please email us right away. We'll get it fixed. But also there's some things that people will change. And we love to hear what did you change or what did you add? One of my favorite books is Fry Bread. We do not have a lesson plan on the book yet. I'm working on it, but Fry Bread is a book that can be used from the very first. My grandbabies who aren't even born yet have the book, and it's something that I will read to them often, and it goes all the way. You can read it I read it to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We read it in 9th and 10th grade. And there's so much there. There's math, there's science. So look in these books beyond just the story, how do you bring in some science? How do you bring in some, maybe some history? And then, of course, on this page, we have, lesson plans. Bow Wow Powwow is a great book. We also have a powwow guide. We have some coloring pages. I think Marie put those in one of the coloring pages in. We do have some coloring pages that go with our powwow guide. A double knot half is a great lesson. It's about a young lady who actually is not Native. She's actually Japanese and Caucasian, born in Billings, and she was really struggling with identity in the school she went to. Didn't have any other children that looked like her, and she was really struggling. So her and her dad wrote Double Knot Half and then helped us do a model lesson on that. Elk Morning at Battle Creek is a great book about a spiritual battle. We have The Giving Tree, which is Métis story. And then we have like Counting 1-on-1 in our math. I pulled that in. That's a really good one for our younger kiddos. And then Shapes in the Blackfeet Language was another one for kindergarten. And I know Carrie is working with Rocky Boy right now to bring in some more tribally specific lesson plans. And hopefully we can bring in some more like the Shapes one. We don't reinvent the wheel. We're just gonna change it to a different language, huh, Carrie?
That's right, absolutely. And that's just what we're talking about. Use what we have, the resources that we've that were created, and implement, revise, do what you have to aligning with the essential understandings. So some of these they're pretty deep, but then going back to, okay, well, apply it and let us know, please.
I see that Eileen and Sherry have both been sharing in the chat. They are here almost every month as part of this community of practice, and they both have said reach out to other Native teachers, talk to your elders, invite people into the classroom. If you do have Native students in your school, that could be something that they could spearhead planning.
Invite us in. I want to come play.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate. Once in a while, we might be able to get it passed. So the next thing is, how do you know about a resource? How do you know if it's good? Hopefully, if you're going onto the websites that we have linked you to, we also link to Billings Public Schools has great resources. Missoula Public Schools has a great IEFA section in theirs. Those resources have been vetted. They have done the same research that we have. We're not going to redo one of their lesson plans if it's a phenomenal lesson plan. We just link to it. Those lesson plans should be, they're great resources. The other thing you want to look at when you're looking at a book is there a connection between the author and the illustrator? Sometimes there, how do you put it? Sometimes there's a disconnect. Mandy Smoker brought us, we have a great webinar that she does for us. It's on our IEFA YouTube channel. And she talks about the relationship she had when she wrote her book Thunderous with her author. And usually there's an author's note with that illustrator, or look and see, Google the author, Google the illustrator at the same time. Accuracy and when we go back to the author, sorry, I'm going to go back to the author really quick. There is a book that I wanted my son to read, and I was not sure about it. And it's called Prophecy of an Eagle, and the author was not native. So I contacted him. I Googled him, and I found his contact information through his publisher, and they connected me with him. And I said, can you give me the background on this book? And he was able to give me a huge background on him going to the tribes, talking with the tribes, getting permission to post the stories that he did post, things like that. And I felt that that was a great IEFA book for my son to write. He wrote a senior paper on it, but I wanted to make sure that that book had the accurate information on lacrosse for him, because there is not a lacrosse book out there by a native author. So it doesn't hurt to also contact the publisher, contact the author. You're looking for accuracy and cultural specificity. Some of our older books don't have, we have a book that says Montana tribes, and on the front of that book, and I should have put this picture in there, on the front of that book, it has a Kachinka doll and a Hopi doll, and nothing on there represents Montana tribes. And when Mike Jetty contacted that author, she had never been to Montana. Everything she made out of that book, and it's probably in your libraries to this day, in your school libraries, because we tell our librarians, don't toss that book. Use it to show the inaccuracies. Evaluate for bias and stereotypes. Make sure that you're looking, is there stereotypes? All Indians lived in teepees, or all Indians, wore headdresses. That's a stereotype. That's a bias. Again, that goes in with that cultural specificity. Cultural integrity and ownership. Books that are written by native authors often have a bio. They often put something in to their bio online. So definitely check that if you're not sure. And I'm going to give you some websites that have great books that have already been looked at. So hopefully you don't have to go outside of that, but also look at the books that you have in your library. When you leave today, tomorrow, go and look at that book that you have in there, and go to those websites that we're going to show you and see, does this meet the criteria of the book vetting? This is also a book, I think we did Evaluating Classroom Resources for the Classroom. This is a long, more drawn out process, especially those second, third, fourth grade teachers. If you're unsure about a lesson plan or something like that, that really gives you a great resource to go through the book and see what you need to double check for. And then 5 is just the questions for teachers. Does the resource provide an accurate and objective perspective? Ask yourself that question. Does it promote this essential understandings regarding Montana Indians? It doesn't always have to be Montana Indians. We're not always going to find that. But when we do, we definitely want to promote that. You can put the essential understandings with all of our native nations, but specifically, do we have some Montana Native American books in our libraries? And is the tone of the book respectful and free of implicit shaming? So those are some great things to look for. And I really want you to really think about this in the next couple of weeks before we come back in 2 weeks about what do I have in my library? And if you have something that shouldn't be in your library, tell us, because I will be the first one to say, 17, 18 years ago when I was teaching preschool, I was not teaching Thanksgiving correctly, and I'm Native American. So we all make mistakes, and that's okay. Next slide. So these are some of the best resources out there. The American Indians and Children's Literature resource website is run by Dr. Debbie Reese. She is Nambi Pueblo. I cannot say it right. She's gonna be mad at me. She is actually teaching in California right now. This is one of the best resources for American Indian books. She has lists, she has her thoughts, she has them separated by age group. And then she also has, if there's a lesson plan on it, she has it linked to whoever made the lesson plan, whether it's Montana, California, New Mexico. She has that lesson plan linked to those books. Native Knowledge 360, we talked about a little bit. That's the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian, and they have some great literature for the classroom. We have some social justice books for American Indians. This one is great for all levels. They have over 100 books for all grade levels, specifically filtering for those that counter stereotypes. First Nations Development Institute out of Canada features Native Reads campaign. They create reading lists specifically focused on Indigenous authors and includes helpful discussion guides for teachers. The IOT.org is, it works with ensuring Native lives and histories are portrayed honestly. And they also have a how to tell the difference guide for evaluating a book resource. And then one of my very favorite is the Indian Reading Series. And this one is made by Ed Northwest. And Ed Northwest has over 140 books on their website. They're leveled readers, and they put them in levels. They have lesson plans with some of their books, not all. But a lot of these books can be, they're online for you. They're all online. You can bring it up on your smart board. You can print it out. You can use it. Some of them are black and white. You can use them for coloring pages. They are phenomenal. And then Bookfinder is, they have Color in Colorado, Reading Rocks, and so much more in their Bookfinder app.
That Color in Colorado is going to be more of a multicultural than just Native American.
Love it. I'm checking my time. And then we have the American Indian Culture and Language Department. And Matt, if I say something wrong, or if you need to jump in here, that would be wonderful. I'm going to share my screen and show you just quickly where to find this. So again, on our homepage, are you seeing my page, Jackie?
I just
Perfect.
see your homepage.
Okay, so on the homepage, we have all these little sections that I showed you earlier. If
No,
you go
no, Julie.
Oh, yeah.
I see your screen there.
Oh, well, that's no fun. Is it there?
Yep.
All right. So the Indian Education for All homepage also has the American Indian Culture and Language section. And what I love about this section, and Matt is really good about keeping everything up to date, is the language apps. So if you're wondering, or kids are asking, or you have a book that's got language in it and you're not sure how to say it, or you're not sure what to do about it, these apps are great. They're phenomenal. So I absolutely love using these apps. And then Matt has built in some great resources, events calendar, a dictionary, cultural resources, multicultural learners, and then some stuff for our class 7 teachers. So he's got a great section in his website also there for us all to look at. And Matt, did you want to add anything?
Sure. I guess just for a little bit of background really quick. In Montana, our situation is kind of unique in that the largest demographic that makes up English language learners is our American Indian students. Um, and so that kind of informs how we kind of think about teaching them. And but what the kind of caveat is that their language of impact isn't always necessarily their heritage language, but the different dialect of English that they might speak in a smaller town. If you could kind of think about using the phrase, if you're watching a football game, who did the QB throw that football to? That's acceptable in terms of talking about sports, but that's marked as incorrect in strict English grammar. Um, and so there's just different dialects of English that our American Indian students bring to the classroom. And sometimes when they're in new environments, they're not as ready to share and as other students. And sometimes, again, they get marked as English language learners. To kind of back up and kind of celebrate multilingual literacy at that language, at that early level of learning, it definitely helps to be tactile with the learning. So if you have a book about buffalo, maybe doing some clay models of buffalo and then using some of those apps to explore what the tribes in your area called buffalo, Tatanka, Pate, something like that. And so hopefully the little learners can come back home with a little tiny nugget of, the language, the culture, and how that all kind of meshed into the lesson. And I guess furthermore, to kind of think about our role as language teachers, North American English has a lot of place names that are indigenous in nature. And so kind of thinking that we're not separating the two, native language, English, but understanding that they are kind of embedded and kind of helping kids understand that, celebrate it, find more resources to dig into it, for them, for yourself, for the community, for the parents, everything. That's what I'm here for. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Sorry, Carrie, I took over the culture and language. That was yours. Do you want to do the videos real quick?
That's fine. No, yeah, you can keep going.
It's Matt.
And then we're gonna do a quick highlight on the videos here. Some videos and music. These ones are really great to be able to hear the flag song. These flag songs are 3 different versions of a flag song that your kids can watch and see and listen to. We have songs from the Indian reading series. So that is also in this book here that we have. And that's great because they go with the book. The Blackfeet and the Kootenai stories there. We have Beaver Stills Fire is one of my favorite books. It is an oral story, but when we go to that website, Beaver Stills Fire, you can listen to it in both English and Salish. It's one of our elders, either Johnny Arlee or Sam Sandoval. Depends on who they put up on the website that week, but you can also flip through the book, which is really great. So you're watching it all. You don't have to have the book. Birthright Poetry has every author in our Bookright Poetry has on this website that they put in here for you. When you go to it, it's our YouTube channel, and all the authors do their poems. So you can hear their language if they've spoken it in Salish or both English and Salish. You get to hear Johnny Arlee say that, or again, you get to hear that dialect that Matt was kind of talking about. And then, of course, your guide to understanding and enjoying powwows. Carrie did a phenomenal job updating our powwow guide that hadn't been updated for quite a few years. And this is a great one to talk about with your kids and dance steps and things like that. And then we're getting close to running out of time.
Yes, we try to use Native Americans, indigenous people from the state of Montana. So everybody in that book is from the state of Montana.
And then our last little part here is that we are having our Indian Education for All Best Practices Conference in Helena this year, March 23rd, 24th. Registration is free. It is on our website. They're also linking it there. We are doing a lot of different things this year. We're actually doing a tour of the Montana Historical Society. We're doing we have a fiddler, a flute, and a comedian coming in for a night event for us. And then Katrina Ingledrum and I are actually doing a new math game that can be used in those earlier classrooms for math and fine motor skills and things like that. So we're going to do a session on that. Carrie's going to be running some sessions on knowledge keepers with our knowledge keepers. And then Matt's got one or two sessions he's going to be talking about, but we have over 40 presenters this year, and we're hoping to have just a great time. So if you can make it, that would be wonderful to see you all there.
The end.
I made it.
So this is,
Jackie, you're muted.
This is our last activity, and so we just want to hear from you again and let us know what aspects of implementing Indian education for all in the early learning classroom still needs clarification. So if you can grab your phone and just drop some information in there, that would help us guide future sessions.
Thank you for joining us. I hope we helped you within your content area.
there will be PDUs. We'll show you how to take care of that in a moment. I did put in the chat, but stick around. We just want to make sure we can capture everything for the recording and watch the chat. The feedback form will be dropped in there. And so how you get your PDU is you click the link for the feedback form, you fill it out, and when you click submit on that feedback form, wait, because you'll get a pop-up. And in that pop-up is the link for your PDU.
This is kind of just random. I'll put the name in the chat. I have a couple of little daughters at home, and there's an author from Canada. His name's Richard Van Camp. He's Dene. But he has several wonderful books ranging from newborn to teenager, and I really just like both the simplicity he brings and also kind of the mindfulness at other levels. We don't have lesson plans for him here at OPI, but as a personal recommendation for early readers and observers, I'd recommend Richard Van Camp.
Thank you, Matt. Eva Cox did drop the feedback attendance and PDU in there. If you don't see it, let us know. Yeah, more lesson plans. Well, that brings us to our last and final request. This year on the learning series, we have always followed up our learning session with a discussion session. What we thought we would do is Kim and Julie and Carrie and anybody else at OPI, we'll come back together and see what we might have missed. We'll review your comments and see how we could spend another 30 minutes or an hour to give you more. But also, we'd like you to come to the next session, which is on February 25th, with your ideas and things that you could share with us of what you do, questions. Maybe you're not comfortable with IEFA and you're not alone. So come and ask questions and come and get some information from the attendees, not just us, but we can learn from each other. And so we're hoping to get more lesson plans in the bank through the people who have their boots on the ground. You, my friends, you're out there doing it every day, and we want to hear from you, and we want to highlight what you're doing. So come ready to share. You don't have to create anything new. This can all be verbal sharing. After the session on February 25th, we will let you know how you can earn more PDUs to submit a lesson plan for IEFA to share with Montana.
And I know it's a lot of information in a little bit of time, so please, go into the website, explore, play, go into the resources, really spend some time in there and see what works best. But if you have questions, definitely email us. Not just Jackie or Kim, you can email the IEFA team directly. We'll get Matt's put out to you too, because that language and culture piece is pretty important. And I don't want to leave him out if you have questions there. So please don't ever hesitate. This is our job. This is what we're supposed to do, is have these conversations, whether they're hard conversations to have, or if they're just, hey, I need something that works in ethnobotany. And please call me about ethnobotany, because I love it. We can do some fun planting stuff with ethnobotany.
So we say miigwech in Anishinaabe, which is Chippewa, and we say kititamihin in Cree for thank you. Matt could probably do Nakota and Dakota.
Panamea. Nakota, Padamea. So Dakota.
Lemneps in Salish and Pondere.